I was even on the Miss Korea pageant. At one point, they wanted a foreigner because the Miss Korea that was going to be chosen that year would then go up for Miss Universe or something. And they wanted a foreigner to be able to help the team decide if a Miss Korea that would be universally or internationally competitive. So I was on the Miss Korea panel. Whatever I was
interesting. How interesting.
Yeah. And then all these men in the department said, well, why did they pick you? You know, I'd be good for that, for the Miss Korea panel. I said, yeah. That's why they picked me, the woman.
Tell us, how did you end up in Seoul?
It came about because at University of Hawaii, I was very involved with Koreans. I mean, we had a lot of Koreans in our department who were my personal friends. And I had already, in the course of my PhD studies, I had already come to Korea one time just for a personal visit to a friend. And then I'd come a couple times for conferences. And so I'd come back and forth to Korea, but also in Honolulu, I was well known to the students and also to the Korean professors at UH. There was one in particular. He had wanted me to tutor a Korean girl who was just coming over from Korea and who needed tutoring for her high school studies, all of it in English. And I had tutored her successfully and had a good relationship with her and her family. And I'd proved my mettle. I had proved that I could be a friend to Koreans, which is very important. You know, they do favor for you, you do favors for them. You are a reliable person. And so this particular professor, at that time, a lot of people that graduated from UH would go to Japan, but he wanted me to go to Korea because he knew that I was a friend of Korea. So he made some contacts for me at various universities, and I applied only to one of the universities. This was an interesting Korean culture thing. He actually was looking at the conditions of employment at almost all of the top Korean universities and would tell me about it so that I would know, because really he wanted me to go to the university that he had come from, but he didn't want to introduce me to them if I wasn't actually going to take the offer. If they made the offer, it would have been an insult. It would have been embarrassment to him if I applied and then they offered it and I took something else. So he made sure that I knew the conditions of employment at a variety of Korean universities. He introduced me to people at different places, all of which was to eliminate the others so that I would eventually go to the one he wanted me to go to, which is what happened in the end. And I did apply only to that one university, which is Hanguk University of Foreign Studies. And then I ended up spending 12 years there.
And what did you teach?
In my resume is like this long list, but basically I was in it's not an English department, it's called the School of English. I taught what they call English linguistics. For me, it's just general linguistics. So I taught all kinds of things, from undergraduate language classes, introduction to linguistics, a class called language and culture, another last class called American and British English. So I did a bit of learning myself to be able to teach the British component. And then I also taught a lot of classes, a lot of classes at the graduate level. I taught language planning, bilingualism, second language acquisition, introduction to research methods. And then they opened what they call a TESOL department, teaching English to speakers of other languages. So I taught, again, second language acquisition to them, research methods, many things, but basically related to linguistics. Oh, I even taught anthropological linguistics, right, at the, thanks to the initiation to anthropology that we had in a course together, you and I.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So I'm interested in what you said about, becoming a friend of Korea, because one of the things that I've known about you all these years is you really make deep, lasting friendships in all these different places that you've lived that you still have to this day. So tell me a little bit about that. How do you do that? How do you get involved in these places that you move to that are so foreign at first, perhaps, to the point where you're just taken into these families' hearts?
I think every country has its own codes. And I mean, my Korean story is different, very different than my French story or the Egyptian story or now the Kazakh story. I think it's like I was saying back at UH, the reason that this Korean professor wanted me to go to his university was that he felt I was reliable. I had a positive attitude to anything Korean, and I was a reliable friend, a reliable person that you can count on. And in Korea, it's very important to be a team player. And I am definitely a team player. I'm not one of these that says, what do you mean you want me to come here at 6 o'clock in the evening? What do you mean you want me to stay stay and work on this project till midnight. I'm out of here at 6 o'clock. I'm not one of these people that's like, my time is precious, and you can't possibly impose on me past 5 o'clock working hours. So if somebody says, we got this project, we got to finish it by tomorrow morning, and we may be here all night to finish, I say, okay, let's get to work, let's get going, let's finish the project. So that's kind of like a hypothetical situation, but it is an exemplification of what always happens in Korea. We've got a thing we got to get done. Can you help us? And I say, what is it you want me to do? Okay, let's do it. And I enjoy that. I mean, because I always feel that getting involved, you say, well, yeah, it's some kind of a burden on you. It's a burden on your time, your energy, your mental capacities, whatever, your linguistic capacities. Often it was relying on my English linguistic native speaker capacities, to edit or brainstorm ideas or whatever. But you learn something every time. You learn something by getting involved in other people's projects or whatever, getting involved. The funny thing was, in Korea, I was in this English department, and I worked at this university that was very famous. It taught 49, 50 languages. And anybody in Korea, whether it's the government or somebody organizing something, like they often have children's speech contests, if they don't know any foreigners, but they need a foreigner to be on their committee, they would call the English department of this university. And it happened that I was usually the only female, maybe one of two or three, but often, the others would come and go, but I was there for 12 years. And I was known again as this reliable person that's a team player. So they'd get a call from the TV station. We need a foreigner on this, project. We need a foreigner to interview about this. We need a foreigner to judge a children's and language contest. My department was kind of like my agent. They said, well, yes, we have Professor Plumlee. So I'd be, asked to appear on TV or be on this committee or be on this judging panel.
What would you recommend for somebody who wants to learn more about South Korea?
There's lots and lots available, because a lot of people who did Peace Corps back in the 60s and 70s have become scholars. One of the things that got me, one of many things that got me into Korea, was some music. So there's a famous opera singer in English. She's called Sumi, S-U-M-I, Sumi Jo, J-O. And you could find music by Sumi Jo. She's a soprano, but not a high register soprano, kind of a low register soprano. She sings in operas. She was trained in Korea and Italy. She sings in various languages, Korean, Italian, English. She has music out. It's the folk songs. And her voice is very, very melodious. So I love Sumi Jo, Jo Sumi, as we say it in Korean, or Sumi Jo, as a beautiful singer. And there's another kind of a Bob Dylan kind of a character, if I can say that. His name is Kim Min-gi. Kim is the family name, Min-gi, and he plays guitar and sings again. And even if you don't understand the words, he's very melodious. So I used to fall asleep in Honolulu. I had Kim Min-gi and Jo Sumi that I would fall asleep to, and then I would dream of maybe living in Korea one day, and then it happened. So, oh yeah, and then there's one more. There's lots of Korean films these days, and some of them have won prizes at the Oscars even. But the very first film I ever saw, the story is about a particular kind of singing that they do here in Korea, and it's very emotional, and it's very, very Korean film. It's called Sopyeonjae, and Sopyeonjae has all the characteristics of Korean film, which is the ending is very unsatisfying. You don't know, like it leaves it open to know what could have happened, should have happened, and you don't want it to end like it ends. It's one of those wonderful movies. It's a Korean movie that ends with an undetermined ending, and I found it very typical. It's a beautiful story. It's one of the very first films that was released internationally. When I first saw it, I saw it at the Kaimuki Adult Language School. I was taking Korean classes, and our teacher, they didn't have captions at the time, and she just commented on it. She'd show a little thing, and then she'd tell us what it said, and then she'd show it and tell us.
Oh.
But
she was the captions. She was the captions.
She was the live captionist, right? And now it's available with captions, and you can get it on internet. I've actually shown it to my students, or clips from it to my students. Sopyeonjae.
I know you have lifelong friends from Korea now. Tell me how that came about.
Well, each friendship has its own story, of course. In the case of this particular family, I met them in my very first week in Korea, and it's like, as they say in French, donnant, donnant. I help you, you help me. It's like you just, over the course of time, life, something comes up and you're in a position to help somebody, or sometimes you need help and you ask them, and I don't know, just give of whatever the talents are that you have that can help the other side. And that's very much true in the deaf culture. So with deaf culture, what you can give as a hearing person, what you can give and contribute to a deaf person is like interpret, say, oh, I just heard this, or I know about this, or this person saying this, or becoming, if you know sign language, language, becoming an interpreter and not shutting out the deaf. So being inclusive. In the Korean case, I don't know. It's like, how do you become friends with anybody? There's some kind of chemistry that happens, and don't know, like your lives get intertwined and becomes so that you've got this really deep connection. I mean, I have lots of stories about particular things with this particular family, but just being available, being willing to get involved in whatever they need. And then for me, that's it.
Next week on Midlife Dialogues, Marilyn talks about her years in Egypt and how she ended up living and working in Kazakhstan, where she lives now. Thanks for watching. You can support this channel by liking and subscribing. See you next time.